To the president's chagrin, demonstrations continued. In 1965, protests targeted Selma, Alabama, the seat of Dallas County, where fewer than 1% of eligible blacks were registered to vote, and where bully boy segregationist Sheriff Jim Clark and his deputized citizens posse rounded up civil rights activists using Gestapo tactics and cattle prods. SNCC's John Lewis was among more than 2,000 demonstrators jailed in the first months of 1965. The Reverend C.T. Vivian, an organizer for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, led the Selma campaign.
We're willing to be beaten for democracy, and you misuse democracy in the street. You beat people bloody in order that they will not have the privilege to vote. You beat me in the side and then hide your blows. Well, go on. No, I don't need to leave. We have come to register to vote. And you must realize that this is a national issue. It's not a Selma issue. It's not an Alabama issue. This is a national issue. Whenever anyone does not have the right to vote, then every man is hurt. I don't need to leave. We have come to
On the night of February 18th, state troopers savagely attacked Vivian and other demonstrators. In the chaos, a young man named Jimmy Lee Jackson was shot at point-blank range in what the local newspaper called a nightmare of state police stupidity.
He was murdered by the irresponsibility of every politician from governors on down who has fed his constituents the stale bread of hatred and the spoiled meat of racism.
The tragedy galvanized the Selma Voting Rights Campaign. The SCLC's James Bevel proposed a symbolic march from Selma to the Alabama state capitol in Montgomery, more than 50 miles away. On March 7, 1965, SNCC's John Lewis and the SCLC's Hosea Williams led a procession of more than 500 marchers over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Alabama state troopers, clad in gas masks and riot gear, waited on the other side.
It'll be detrimental to your safety to continue this march, and I'm saying that this is an unlawful assembly. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue.
News cameras immortalized a hellish scene of police brutality and chaos. Images of Bloody Sunday shocked the nation. Time magazine reported that rarely in human history has public opinion reacted so spontaneously and with such fury.
We have no alternative but to keep moving with determination. We've gone too far now to turn back.
2 weeks later, Martin Luther King led more than 3,000 demonstrators in a repeat of the Bloody Sunday March. This time, there would be no tear gas, no bullwhips, no billy clubs.
At times, history and fate meet at a single time, in a single place, to shape a turning point in man's unending search for freedom. So it was at Lexington and Concord. So it was a century ago at Appomattox. So it was last week in Selma, Alabama.
On March 15, 1965, President Johnson called upon Congress to enact new voting rights legislation.
Our mission is at once the oldest and the most basic of this country: to right wrong, to do justice, to serve man. The issue of equal rights for American Negroes is such an issue. And should we defeat every enemy, and should we double our wealth and conquer the stars, and still be unequal to this issue, then we will have failed as a people and as a nation. For with a country as with a person, what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?
When the Selma to Montgomery March reached its destination 5 days later, its numbers surpassed 25,000. 10 years after the Montgomery bus boycott christened the civil rights movement, the crusade was at its zenith, unified, triumphant, and nonviolent.
I know you're asking today, how long will it take? How long? Not long. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. How long?
But even as Martin Luther King reassured the faithful that their goal was within reach, divisions between the old guard and young militants within SNCC threatened to splinter the movement itself.
In the same room where President Lincoln signed the first Emancipation Order in 1861, President Johnson signed the 1965 Voter Registration Act and pledged to millions of Americans a new chance to find a political voice.
On August 6, 1965, just 5 months after the violence of Selma and the President's civil rights appeal to Congress, Lyndon Johnson signed into law the Voting Rights Act of 1965.